Recently, my video went very viral on why landlords doesn't want to rent it to Indian. So people say that I'm racist. But the thing is, I did also mention that I'm not. So today I will get the lawyer from Lawyer Chamber to verify or clarify whether I am racist or not. Is there any termination clause in a contract?
Yes and no. There are some contracts with termination clauses, some contracts without. If a contract doesn't have a termination clause, it means that both parties can't terminate the contract. For example, a tenancy agreement, if it's a 2-year lease, then it's a full 2 years. The landlord can't terminate the lease early, the tenant can't leave early. And then there are termination clauses like diplomatic clauses, where if you fulfill the criteria, then you can explore that option.
Great. The next question, is it necessary for the contract to specify the penalties for terminating the lease agreement?
No, not necessary for the contract to specify that. The advisable course of action is to go and find a lawyer to explain to you what are your rights and obligations that stem from the contract. Though it's not the duty of the other party to explain to you what's the penalties.
Correct. Okay, the next one. Can a WhatsApp agreement related to tenancy be legally binding in Singapore?
Yes and no. The formalities of a tenancy agreement must have a certain things, must have certain details. You must state who is the landlord, must state who is the tenant, you must state what is the property address, what is the purpose of the tenancy, for example, whether residential, commercial, and then you must state the duration and how much is the rent. Those are the minimum requirements. So if your WhatsApp message has that, it essentially forms a binding tenancy agreement.
A lot of people are very curious about it. Is it possible for the landlord to enter the rental property if the rental has not been paid?
Yes. So it is possible for the landlord to enter the property if the tenancy agreement has a clause that basically says something to this effect. If the rent has not been paid for 7 days, then the landlord has the right to re-enter the property, and at that point of time the tenancy is determined, which means the tenancy ends. So at that point of time the landlord can enter the premises. There are also other places or other reasons why the landlord can enter the premises. For example, in the event if there is any faults in the premises and the landlord or his contractors need to enter the premises to rectify it. So that's also another way that the landlord can re-enter the premises. I've also handled a case where the landlord requested for a unique clause where the landlord can inspect the premises on a regular basis.
Okay, but wait, what are some of the cases that I handled before, right? Some people say must have this court eviction order. Why?
Because the people who say this are not in my profession. The only time you require a court order to evict the tenant, it's usually when the tenant refuses to leave the premises. And then you call the police will come down, the police will say this is a civil dispute, and they can't handle it better because no crime has occurred. So then it forces the landlord to go to the court, obtain a judgment that says that the tenant must leave. But the problem may not even end there. The problem can still carry on where the tenant refuses to follow the judgment. The landlord has to go and apply for another application for a writ of possession and then take the premises. So,
wow. That's a lot of process. Yeah.
Which is why we as a firm rather help landlords evict tenants through peaceful re-entry.
Expensive or not?
Peaceful re-entry in comparison to going to court and going through the whole process is 1/10 the cost.
Okay, through this video people can give discount.
Sure.
Okay, later we talk about discount later. Okay, the next one. Is landlord required to submit the NRIC copy to the tenant for them to keep?
It is not necessary. My answer will be no, because as part of the PDPA, there is no reason why the tenant needs to retain a copy. Perhaps what could be done is you can show the tenant that this is the correct IC number, you're having the landlord's IC with the tenancy agreement, and see this IC number, okay, then you keep it. The tenant doesn't need to retain a copy.
Okay, very good. Then is tenant required to submit the NRIC copy to the landlord for them to keep?
So it's also kind of yes and no. If you are, say, a Singaporean entering into a tenancy agreement, at most you just need to show the landlord this is IC, they check the details, they don't need to retain a copy. But say, for example, they are a foreigner, PR or S-Pass user, then the landlord may need to keep a copy, even if they are PR, because you don't know when the tenant's PR status might be changed. You don't know when the PR status might be revoked. They might need to leave the country because their PR application may not be renewed.
Is diplomatic applicable for Singapore citizens or permanent residents?
So yes and no. For Singapore citizens, no, because usually the purpose of the diplomatic clause is when one party loses their job and they need to leave the country. For Singaporeans, no, because we can still go and find employment. For PRs, also not really, because they can still go and find new employment.
Okay, so I get it straight. Meaning to say, foreigners, if let's say upon agreement with the landlord mutually agreed, then you'll be inside as a diplomatic clause. The landlord also can reject this clause as well, accordingly.
Yes.
Right? If they don't like to have a diplomatic clause inside, they would like to have a fixed term contract in this way. Then for PR, you're saying that unless suddenly halfway their PR status got revoked, then that's when, can they in the midst of contract ask for the diplomatic clause then?
No, it doesn't make sense. A contract is something that both parties ask for what they want and they start on it. Once both party agrees, they need to be held accountable with what they have agreed to. In the event 1 year into the contract you want to make changes, you can request for it, but the other party can refuse the request. Also, up to parties.
Understood. Are both landlords and tenants required to fulfill the lease terms stated in the contract?
Yes. So parties must fulfill their obligations. If I agree to let you my shop for 2 years, I must let you use the shop for 2 years. If you agree to rent my shop for 2 years, you must pay rent for 2 years.
But they say tolong, please. They say please, my job cannot already. Then how?
So that is really down to you as the tenant, how well you negotiate with your landlord. You as the landlord, how you want to negotiate with your tenant.
But the landlord already metal hard. They say no. Then how?
And maybe find a lawyer who can soften his heart. There are certain things you can put in a letter and send it to the landlord. It can really make them reconsider.
Can you do it?
I've done it before.
Wow, great. Okay, great. Okay. Both landlord and tenant have different perspective on wear and tear. This is very common, okay? So to what extent this can be used? How this can be justified?
So the term in the tenancy agreement, fair wear and tear, it's, as the name suggests, it needs to be fair wear and tear. So say for example, most of the time we handle disputes where this comes into play. It's in say condominiums at the entrance of the house. The entrance is made of parquet. So it's wood. So naturally when you stay in a house where your front door and the outside of the house or inside of the house is parquet, when you go into the house, the shoe is going to scuff the floor more than the rest of the house. So this is fair usage because it's fairly expected that you wear your shoe at least into the start of the house that take off the shoe. So that area between the threshold of the house, it's obviously going to be more worn out. So it's not fair for the landlord to say you need to re-polish the floor, lacquer the floor. Unless it's really abusive. Another one, fair wear and tear. We had a case where one of the tenants had a pet in the house. And I think it was a large dog. So the large dog would go around and start biting and scratching the skirting, scratching the door frames. The tenant said that it's fair wear and tear because you knew I was going to have pets on the house. But it's not fair for the pet to go and damage the property. So it's a fine line. It's quite hard to give you a cookie cutter answer. This is fair wear and tear, this is not fair wear and tear.
Yeah. But often landlords, and like just now what you said about the parking calling, right? A lot of landlords also will at the end penalize the tenant for it, for or maybe a few scratches, they will feel that, oh no, because you do that, you drag your luggage or whichever, then it causes these, and then they will just deduct any amount that they like. Like today I feel that this is cost $500, not just $500. Then how?
The landlord can't just unilaterally decide what to deduct when they are coming to reinstating the premises. Number one is when your tenancy is coming to an end, you should go and try and reinstate the premises yourself. Your tenancy agreement should have a clause that says to reinstate the premises before handover. So go and reinstate the premises, go and find your own contractors. Right now you have the luxury of time. Go and find contractors, find out what's the code to rectify those issues. Number two, when the landlord wants to reinstate and tells you that the cost is 500, you can dispute it. You can tell the landlord, I don't believe the cost is 500. I want you to provide me with 3 quotations, 4 quotations. You can tell the landlord, I don't believe you. I want to go and send my own contractor down for a quotation.
Good. How does the compensation being calculated for the landlord and tenant respectively?
It comes down really to negotiations. Whether or not the minor repair clause kicks in really depends on the kind of damage. Whether is it damage appliance, damage manpower, or whether is it more extensive. Generally, when it comes to these kind of damages like parquet floor, you need to re-vinyl or re-varnish. You're not going to just varnish a few squares on the floor. You're going to varnish the entire living room. Varnishing the entire living room is going to cost well above the minor repair clause.
Correct.
So, it's really down to parties to try and negotiate. The most important takeaway is the moment you move into a unit, take hundreds of photos, many videos, document the state of the premises when you moved in. So that when you are leaving the premises, you can show the landlord a side-by-side photo. Your house was like this, there was a scratch here already. Right now, the scratch is still there. You cannot blame me for the scratch. So I'm not going to agree to this reinstatement cost.
Understood. So, meaning to say photos make a lot of difference in court. Am I right to say that?
Yes, because photos are evidence.
Were there cases where the landlords and tenants trying to gain something through disputes? Mostly this kind of issue happens landlords to tenants rather than tenants to landlords in this case. Like wanting to gain something out of it. Have you have like this kind of case before?
It's actually quite common. Everybody, when they go into a dispute, they always want to win the dispute with the upper hand. So you will have landlords who basically say they want the entire house to be renovated.
Yeah, exactly.
Before this, I don't have a feature wall now, I want a feature wall. So they're trying to lump in everything together. Likewise with tenants, they sometimes don't want to reinstate the premises. They feel that this is fair and fair. And the door, when you use it, become loose, it'll drop off.
Exactly.
So everybody's trying to take advantage of everyone.
So this is very common.
This is very common.
This is where you step in.
This is where I step in.
So when you step in, do you need to escalate further or usually stop at your side?
So it depends.
Okay.
So there are cases where either party tries to take advantage. I had a case where the landlord bought a house. So he's the new homeowner.
Yes.
The house was tenanted.
Yes.
He tried to be nice with the tenant and asked, can you leave so I can stay? I will relocate you to a similar unit in the same condominium building.
Okay.
The tenants refused. In fact, if you want us to leave, you've got to give me 6 months of rent
Compensation.
on top of, whatever. So,
Is landlord obligated to change something that is old but in working condition?
no.
But the tenant says it's old.
No, the tenant is not, the landlord is not obliged to change it. So usually before you rent a unit, you go to the unit, you take a look at the unit. If you don't like something in the unit, say for example, I look at your unit, and there's only a 40-inch TV, but I know I want a 100-inch TV. At that point in time, I'll tell the landlord, I'll tell you, I want a 100-inch TV. Are you going to change it or not? If you say no, that means I've agreed to rent your unit with this 40-inch TV. I cannot later ask you to change it.
Reasonable, fair enough. Okay, then any advice that you can give to both landlords or tenants or even agent in this case?
The most important thing, number one, is get your contract properly drafted. Sad to say this, but most agents' contracts have many loopholes. That's number one.
Oh my god! Okay, can.
Number two is, every time the landlord lets out the unit, take a fresh set of photos of the unit, fresh set of videos of every single aspect of the unit. Same thing for the tenant. Take photos and videos when you move in, take photos and videos just before you move out. That really handles most of the disputes. And then, when there is a dispute, find the lawyer.
Okay, last one, this one, confirm last. Is this video racy? This one must really clarify first.
I don't think so. Not at all.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Raj over here to help us. Okay, so anything related to contract or any other service, you say, what's your service?
We do civil litigation, corporate litigation. If there's any dispute over any one of these things, just come and find us.
Can I text you directly?
Just drop me a WhatsApp.
You're friendly, smile. Okay, bye-bye.